Hey, I'm Chris Jenkins, alongside my co-host Andre Casseday. There's cameras and lights all around us because we're happy to be taking care of you guys, providing you content about this Carolina Panthers Season 1. Game 1 opener. Carolina Panthers have fallen to the Atlanta Falcons. Final score in this game, Atlanta 24, Carolina Panthers 10. We're going to get you through it. All right, so let me break down what we're going to do in this show today. We're going to first go over some photos. We have the best photographs that you will see to bring you some live action from the game that we're going to share with you first. Then we're going to talk about what Andre observed from the press conference. That'll be Coach Reich as well as Bryce Young. After that, we're going to take you to some stats. We got to talk about the stats, right? Mm-hmm. So stats tell the story of the game as well. We'll go over the stats. And then after the stats, we'll open it up for some questions, all right? So have you already done so? If you haven't done so, Andre's going to go ahead and pin in the comments the link for you guys to support the channel. Join us. We are independent media, 100% supported by you all. So anytime you can do a super chat, join, Cash App, whatever you want to do, Cash App's in the description. It helps us very much. Did you pin it?
It is up there.
He has pinned that.
I have successfully pinned it.
Successfully pinned it.
With no issues.
And I really I know there has to be some feelings out there from you fans, some emotions, some good, some bad, some indifferent. I want you to know that we want to hear from you. So this show will be live, and we want you all to use your phones, use your computer, whatever you have, to come on the show, talk with Andre and I about the game. We'd love to hear from you. So without further ado, it's funny. They always play a Little League game.
They did that last year, too, when we were over here.
I guess it's not a bad tradition, right? They only do it at halftime in Charlotte, but they do it here, I guess.
Hey, some of the people that are on this field right now, I guess some of the Panthers could use some of them here relatively soon. But, okay, I digress. I don't want to be too negative
Look at this guy
today, right? I have to be a little, subjective in what I saw today.
You do.
Don't want to get the emotions too riled up in my.
You can be emotional, but let's go ahead and start with some photos from the game. All right, so I'm going to bring up these photos because we have some great ones for you. All right,
some clean shots
in no particular order, and I'm going to let you tell the story behind each one of these photographs.
All right, so we have right here Bryce Young walking off the field with a pretty sweet black and white effect to it.
Hey, how do we get that shot? Did we have a camera like in the ground or something? Like that's a pretty low shot.
I mean, it's
right
pretty
in front
impressive,
of Bryce,
right? I didn't know this guy could get down to that level there. Should we be able to get that from that angle?
All
it's
right.
Impressive.
Keep on. I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, this is him walking off the field, and again, capturing the mood there. Brian Burns over there after a sack in the first quarter. He had a phenomenal first half with nearly 2 sacks in the first half, and that was one play there. Pretty sweet shot there of him after that play there.
I'm going to help Andre out for a second. He is still getting used to being photographed and all the stuff that we do, so I could tell he's a little like than usual. So he's going to loosen up a little bit, but I'm going to help him get through it because I'm going to tell you we have a few comments that I see that are coming. Somebody says you guys might disagree, but Andy Dalton needs to start next week.
Oh, come on.
Let me go ahead and put this on here. Carolina Boys 31 says you guys might disagree, but Andy Dalton needs to start next week versus the Saints. Bryce needs to learn still. I do disagree, but I just want to give my guy a break. You don't have to comment yet. I want you to stay focused on the pitches, all right? So we're going to go back to showing some of the imagery that we captured from the game. I'm still going to give you another minute to get used to it all.
Right.
But here's a plug. On Instagram is where we post most of our game photos. So today we're going to share about 6, 8 of them. I don't know the exact number. But on Instagram, we're going to have a ton more photographs. So if you're enjoying the photographs that we're showing, make sure you head over to Instagram. Charlotte Vibe is the handle there, so you can see some more of the pictures. All right, you're straight. You're ready to go. You're ignoring all the action going on around.
I'm reoriented.
All right, so here we go. We kind of picked off from that. We'll go to the next one from Brian Burns. We'll go to this one here.
So this one is a Desmond Ridder, and you can see Brian Burns and Derek Brown providing some pressure here in the background there, and really those two in the first half especially, they dominated a lot of what Atlanta was trying to do. But of course with the turnovers that we saw in the second half, their effectiveness was wearing down a little bit, but they did provide a lot of trouble for Atlanta early on in the game today. And here's another one here. This is Bryce Young, and I believe that's Grady Jarrett in that shot there on that third down play late in the third quarter where, I mean, Atlanta just let loose on Bryce Young. Let's just be frank about it. I mean, they put him in a situation where passing the ball was really their only option, and they kind of just unloaded on what the Panthers were trying to do there. And this is Bryce Young before the game, taking the field, saying a couple of prayers before he gets ready to start for the team, seizing the moment. You know, this is a big deal for him and a big opportunity today. Unfortunately, it ended up being a loss.
I think that's my guy Adam Thielen in the background. And there's another player kneeling over there to the side. I'm not sure who that is, but we'll continue to move through. Is that me? Me run? I'm just joking. Just having some fun with it.
Bijan Robinson on the touchdown run there, and you could see. Just look at the.
This is a very bad photo. I'm sorry to take over, but here's why I want to take over a little bit on this photograph.
Right.
I was watching with the binoculars on this play, and as we were watching this play, let me tell you where we are. So we're sitting in the corner of like right over my shoulder. So this happened on the opposite end of the field where we are, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, okay, nice little swing pass. Probably know where to go.
Right.
Louvu misses first, and then
I'll just
go to the picture to tell the rest of the story, which I forget which picture it was. I think it was. So
right
then, Louvu misses.
Von Bell,
Shaq Thompson, and he's still on the ground looking up like,
what just happened? You know, we had the opportunity to get him to the ground, and then boom, he just starts out of nowhere and just gets away from the three of them there. I mean, you could just tell in their faces the look of defeat. In that image there.
Yeah, and at first I was going to say, man, our guys, we got some poor tackling moments that are coming. But one thing, and I don't want to sound like a coach, I need to go back and watch the tape because that is what journalists do so we can have a better understanding of what went on for things that we couldn't watch in real time. But I was thinking by the end of the game, that guy must be shifty.
Right.
Because he did it more than once. I don't think it was a lot of other players that did it. I think it was a lot of number 7.
Shifty and then power, too.
Yeah.
Look at the guy. He's like 220 pounds of just pure muscle.
Yeah.
When you have that combo mixed together, you're going to have images like that of 3 defenders who are left so powerless. They're like, what can we do in this situation here?
Yep. So we'll move on through.
All right, this is Bryce Young. Look at his face. I mean, you can just see the facial expressions in a lot of these images here. Getting sacked on a third down play there where, again, they just unloaded on the Panthers offense. And then this is a nice wide shot of Bryce Young. Pressure in his face again. You notice the theme here in a lot of these pictures that we have on the screen. Just pressure from really all corners of the offensive line today. And that really impeded on his success today as well.
Did it have a duplicate there? So that looks like that takes us through all the photos from today. So thank you very much for going through that. Thank you to Patrick Snyder, our outstanding photographer, for getting those. And again, you can go to Instagram and see a lot more. We have just 10 likes right now. I know everybody's not too excited. It's quite a difference from our pregame show.
Right.
But we're still going to have a segment where we allow you all to come on the show. We hadn't put the link up there yet, but you can come on the show and, hey, comment, question. We love to hear from you. We are, I'll say men, I'll invite you in, men of the people, right? So that means we work for you all, what we want to know, what you need to know, we'll go ahead and get it for you. So press conference started, right?
Yeah.
Frank Reich was the first one up. So once you're ready, go ahead and let us know about Frank. Hold on, man.
What's going on behind us?
Some of these comments, I'm not going to read this one.
Oh, my.
But Supernova here.
Ooh. Feisty out there.
So before I let him go, I'm going to say one thing. So what we always try to do is give you all some perspective on everything that you're going to watch, right? Because we want you to not be okay if they lose, but just have some perspective to the loss and think, well, should we really win this game? Like, you want to, but like, what's realistically likely to happen? So before the game, we told you some stats. Frank Reich, 0-4-1 in his last 5 games as a starting head coach.
Right.
I mean, as a head coach, I'm sorry. You can only be a starter as a head coach. And then #1 draft picks, first overall, starting their first game, they don't win often.
They're like 0-7-1 in the past 8 starts for #1 overall draft picks. So, you know, it was negative in terms of that aspect of it, but again, you're setting the tone for what could potentially happen today, and we had to be realistic in that. We had to report those facts because a lot of people are optimistic, yeah, but at the same time, it's been a long time since a #1 overall pick won their first start. Like 20
I'm going to put you in the headlock
years.
the next time you cut me off from my statement, because then I'm going to forget what I'm going to say.
I digress.
But I love this guy. So, yeah, what he said about how long it's been. Nevertheless, Frank Reich, what do you have to say in the press conference?
Well, he was pretty dejected. You could tell just like right off the bat, just the energy level was sucked out of the presser, right? But there were some things that he saw today that were encouraging.
I'm sorry, which I know we're still live, but I got a drink. Which one is your water?
That one there is yours.
That one's mine?
Yeah.
Look at this, and it just magically comes to my hand.
See,
on camera. You guys
the
can
beauty
see that
of
trick.
a team, right?
Yes.
Teamwork makes the dream work. But as I was saying, yeah, there are room for improvements, obviously. He did see some things that were encouraging, specifically in the first half and even into the second half, too. Like, the game was pretty close all the way up through the end of the third quarter, and then the turnovers really is what broke open the game for Atlanta. I think with that Miles Sanders turnover, and, he don't want to place the full blame on Miles Sanders. He took the opportunity to say, look, we got to look at the tape to see every single aspect of what took place on that play. But, I mean, there was just too many opportunities that were taken away from us because we just could not take care of the ball. And that was something that he reiterated numerous occasions. Like, we have got to take care of the ball. We have to value each possession because we're not at that point yet where we're just fireworks on offense. It's a work in progress. And he also said something about how many times we threw the ball. We threw the ball 38 times today.
Wow.
And we only put up 140 some odd yards of passing. So there has to be more balance. There has to be more chunks of those plays where we get more than 2 or 3 yards on one play, right? But, you got to take in what didn't happen. Got to eat some crow.
Yeah.
And say, hey, look, we have got to get better, and we're going to get better. And he also emphasized, hey, this is week 1 of 17.
Right.
Let's not overreact. Let's realign, focus in, and start working again as we get ready for the Saints next week.
Let me talk about two major observations that I have, and we'll get into a little more, and I'm going to go off script here.
Okay.
So here's the off script part, then I'm going to continue forward. I'm sure you'll be able to roll with it.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are pissed off in these comments. All right, and we're here for it, right? We want to hear the comments. We want to hear the questions. So if your comments are good, optimistic, pissed off, we want to hear from them. So right now, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and pin. We're going to go ahead and invite you guys onto the show right now because I don't want you guys to have to. It seems like you're full of some energy that you want to get out. We want to help you deal with this loss today. So Andre's going to pin it in the comments away for you all. And there's a lot of people that are pissed off. I want you to take this moment to come on the show, make your statement. We'd love to hear from you. Right?
Make your voice heard,
We
please.
will not make you wait till we're done. If someone calls in, we'll go right to it and let you tell us what you think because that's why we're live. We want to interact. So please, on the phone, tablet, go ahead and interact with us. So
let me find that link real quick. Actually.
You lost the link for the live. Do you need me to send it to you? You're going to find it quickly.
I'll do it quick.
All right. So two things, major takeaways that I have from this game. One is it was a tale of two halves, a term that we've all heard before, but it played very, very true today. I know Andre touched on the turnovers and specifically the Miles Sanders one, and that was a part of it. But what I'm going to say, the tale of two halves, Frank Reich purposely had a vanilla offense all preseason. Frank Reich purposely is like, hey, I'll take some of the blame, but we're just trying to use to our advantage what people don't know to come out and win. Now, he did say, even with that, you still got to execute. You still got to play the game. You can't come out and run trick plays, and this is the NFL. People will catch on. And here's what happened, in my opinion, because I saw it a little bit with Matt Rule coaching. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly a Matt Rule situation, because to me it didn't feel like that. And how could you say that after just one game? You can, but to me that's not fair to say that after just one game. But it worked for one half. They didn't know they had to make some adjustments. They go into halftime. They make some adjustments. They come out. It's a totally different second half. It's a totally different second half. Point out a few things. Brian Burns. came out on fire. Now, I would say two parts could happen with the Brian Burns here. And I'll give you a chance to comment. I don't want you to have to hold your breath too long here. One is Brian Burns, we didn't see practices, right? So I don't know how much he really went all in during practice. I showed video during the pregame show, like they said he practiced. This is what we saw. He wasn't doing anything. So I don't know. Brian Burns could have got a little gassed.
Right.
Possibly. But Brian Burns could have also been schemed against in that second half, better accounted for with some blocking assignments and where we're going to take the ball. Because he didn't have that spectacular play through the second half that he had on the first half. All right, and the next point, did you want to say anything before I go to my next point? I want to be fair with you here since I put you in a headlock earlier.
I will keep my mouth shut for now. Because I know I have a lot of thoughts, but we'll wait until we interact with some people before I really have any, too emotioned kind of, thought process.
Okay, but you put the link out there for
The link is out there. It is in the description pinned. So if you all are willing and able and are brave enough to come on, please come on and make your voice heard, because we want to hear from you, and we will get to you here in a little bit because, hey, it was a disappointing day today, but let's not make it seem like it's the end of the world, like everything is just falling apart, like it's just one game. But we do want to hear what you have to say because we want to get the vibe of how everybody else is feeling out there right now.
So the second thing, the turnovers.
Yes.
We had too many. Bryce threw 2 interceptions. Then you had Miles Sanders with the fumble. So we had 3 turnovers. And we're not that good of a team to overcome all that. So anyway, we'll continue to move along here. I know you were talking about the stuff from Frank. Did you cover all the stuff that you had from Frank?
That was pretty much a good bit. And then the one last point was it was a hamstring injury for J.C. Horn, but they really don't know the severity of it. They'll have a better idea over the coming days. So it's going to be one of those things where we're going to keep asking and they're going to keep telling you, we'll wait till Wednesday kind of deal. We'll see. But that is kind of a concern, though, in regards to J.C. Horn and his status.
We got a guy calling in that hasn't called in a very long time.
Okay. Are we going to let him in?
Yeah, we're going to let him in.
Let's let him in.
We're going to let him in. Did you finish your thoughts?
So that was everything with Frank Reich. And I'll quickly touch on Bryce Young. Turn it on over here to our caller. Kind of just the same idea. All competitors hate losing. We did not take care of the ball. We didn't execute. And it's one of those things.
Can I pause you before you go to the Bryce Young?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll go to the caller because you got a few points on Bryce, right? So we're going to go ahead and go to our call, and we're going to invite everybody. The link's posted. We want to hear from you. So
you know it.
Here's how this is going to work. Before I let you in, Shakid. See, remember that guy?
Ooh,
remember that
okay.
guy? We don't have our full earpieces in. I, ordered them. We got them. Probably can show them to you.
Right.
But I don't have all the hardware. So I'm going to bring you on. I'm going to let you say your comment. Then I'm going to take you off so we can respond to you. All right. So here we go. Let's add him to the screen. Are you there, sir?
What's going on?
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead. Hold on one second. Don't talk yet. Let me get you all the way on the screen. Go ahead and tell us what you have to say.
So a couple of things. Number one, what happened to the run defense, guys? I mean, this has been an issue under Matt Rule. Same issue today. Not ability to stop the run. What happened to C.J. Anderson? I mean, he's soft. C.J. Soft Anderson. I mean, how many times is he going to play until the guy's cut and you move on? I understand J.C. on his hamstring, but still, you cannot give a guy chance after chance and he play bad. And the final point, on the Miles Sanders turnover, if you notice, the Panthers basically waited nearly 10 seconds before they snapped the ball. Had they snapped the ball earlier, the Falcons would have not challenged it. But for whatever reason, they took their time getting to the line of scrimmage, which allowed the Falcons to challenge it, which is unacceptable.
All righty there. So
a lot to unpack.
He was tasked with remembering that because, I just like to be real about what's going on.
Yeah.
Last year, this sun that is coming from our right-hand side never came.
Right.
And let me tell you, it is an extremely bright and hot sun that I hope sets extremely fast. But so Shaki, appreciate the questions. And again, whoever wants to call in next, the link's in the description. We want to hear from you. Help me. Let's go over some of the things that he talked about.
Yeah, so
I got one. I'm sorry. You can beat me up sometimes too.
Okay.
C.J. Henderson part, I don't think he did bad. We're going to go over some stats here soon, but he ended up playing the entire half. And Andre talked about it pregame, saying that this secondary was the weak part and that not they're bad, but in that we don't have depth.
Right.
So C.J. Henderson, to me, could have been picked on a whole lot more than he was today, especially with what he did last year. So not going to sound like a coach or hate to sound like a coach. I want to go back and look at the film, but I feel like if the guy made one mistake, I can tell you that Dante Jackson missed more than one tackle today. so include Dante in that. But I'm sorry, go ahead with all the points that he brought up.
And so relating to the defense too, the run defense was something that he touched base on. And let's be frank about it. The first half, I felt like they did a reasonable job on Bijan Robinson. I mean, he had that touchdown in the first half, but I mean, otherwise than that, he was relatively contained for the most part. But when everything started to go downhill was probably about mid to late third quarter, where the turnovers were starting to pile up and they had short fields. And so when the pass game opened up for Atlanta, I mean, it basically allowed everybody to go upfield, and all the holes that weren't there originally in the first half, they were just starting to percolate. And you know, the running lanes were becoming easier for guys like Robinson and Allgeier. Allgeier had 2 touchdowns today. So again, you know, it's definitely a concern with the run defense. And then there was another point that he touched on about time management, right? In terms of, you know, getting the ball snapped at a reasonable time, having to call timeouts when the play wasn't called in time. I feel like that's just been a common theme really over the past couple of years, and it's a little frustrating to see with the new coaching staff that they don't have that down packed in terms of, hey, make sure we have the play in, make sure we have like at least 10 to 15 seconds to go in, make some adjustments if needed, and not have to use timeouts. So, and again, a part of it too is just rookie quarterback with a new offensive coordinator. But those kinds of things are controllable, and it's no excuse to have that continue to percolate, especially at this point of the season.
I got some information here about the first half and second half. I don't know what these numbers are going to be, so we'll find out as I say them. So we're talking about the rushing and performance. So in the first half, Atlanta had, I lost my spot here. In the first half, Atlanta had 74 yards rushing.
Okay.
And they had 0 yards passing. Are you serious? That's what it says. 0 yards passing in the first half. Seems weird. I didn't think that was the case. But that's what my stats are showing. Second half, they had yards rushing 56, so they had less yards rushing in that second half.
But
and
part of it's
passing,
because of the shorter fields that they had.
Passing, they had 91. So I don't know, that would say that they had 91 yards passing overall? Let me quickly scroll and find this out.
Desmond Ridder, I think.
91 yards passing overall. So, smoke on those stats.
Right. And he only had 115 yards passing today, too, which is
Ridder?
the other frustrating part for
Who?
Desmond Ridder.
I have him with 91.
15 to 18 for 115.
Oh, I'm so
touchdown.
sorry. Oh, there's a.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So, absolutely, 115.
But yeah, that was the frustrating part of it, too, because we did a decent job in their pass game, defending their pass game. But when they had the momentum and they had shorter fields, they were able to take advantage of our mistakes and really put together some really 2 touchdown drives that made the difference in the second half and ultimately broke the game open for them.
All right. Any more points from Shaquille that we missed? Did we get them all?
I think we covered all of them.
All right.
Yeah.
So did you go over Bryce Young yet? Nope.
Just a little bit.
All right. But his press conference, right? So we're going to go back to allowing you to finish your discussion. I might take this jacket off. I'm going to try a little bit, but
I'm going to try and tough it out. That's my thought process on
okay.
that.
I don't want to flex on everybody.
Right.
But
yeah, Bryce Young, you know, he definitely took responsibility for what happened today, right?
How so? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Simply put, like with every question that was brought up to him, he's like, that's on me. literally right from the top of every answer that he had. That's on me. I got to take responsibility. We have to execute better. We have to put our defense in better situations, especially in the second half, because again, a lot of those defensive lapses were because of the offense's inability to, for one, execute, and then to have the ball, in their possession. So he took accountability for some of the defensive struggles, which was heightened by our inability to, for one, keep the ball and then score when we have the opportunities to. I mean, there were at least 2 or 3 times today where we were, on our side of the field, nearby the red zone, and we just could not come away with touchdowns. We came away with either 3 points, or we went for it on 4th down and came away with nothing.
Did Frank talk about that 4th down that he went for early in the game?
Yeah, he did say something about it, and he wanted to set the tone.
Okay.
I think that was part of it, was setting the tone, seeing what we could do
right.
and what we can't do. For me personally, I disagreed with the call because you kind of figured it was going to be a lower scoring game. It wasn't going to be a high scoring affair, and it was a close game up until the 4th quarter. Take the points and don't overcomplicate it, because that put them in a bad position and then kind of gave Atlanta some momentum.
I gotta do it, man. It's getting so hot. It is getting so hot out here.
I do not blame you. But then, at the same time, too, give it like 10 minutes, that sun will be away.
I don't have the linen suit that breathes through the sun, and I know this might mess up the color on the video.
Right.
But my face will still be able to be seen, and you'll be able to hear me. So.
But yeah, that was pretty much it for the most part. He was definitely, really upset. You could tell just by his body language, and he just didn't have that same exuberance that he had throughout the week preparing for this game. It hit him. The NFL hit him. Let's be frank about it. But you're going to use today as a building block for better things to come here over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and here's another interesting statistic. I really feel like that passing stuff is off. I mean, this is just the data that I have to look at that's supposed to be properly broken up, but I really don't feel like he had 0 yards passing in that first half. So I'm just going to say that's probably not right. Hopefully that data will be corrected so I can provide to you all the proper information. But one thing I will share with you all that I have is about the time of possession. So that was something that you
mentioned about it. Yeah, you said something about it.
We did well with the time of possession. Final time of possession was 34 minutes, almost 35. So I'm just going to round it up. 35 minutes time of possession for the Carolina Panthers, 25 minutes time of possession for the Atlanta Falcons. Number of plays ran. We ran 72 plays. The Atlanta Falcons ran 48 plays. So I feel like some of their strategy was, number one, kind of going back to what I don't know if we talked about it on camera, but I know we talked about it off air. Like, if Laviska was part of that big plan of what we're not going to show him. And in that first half, I know earlier I talked about Burns did pretty well.
Yep.
And then I feel like the second half they made adjustments and shut him down. The receivers couldn't get open in that second half. They were kind of getting open in that first half. But Laviska Shenault, all of his stats, I would like to think, probably happened in that first half. I don't know. Let's see if I don't know if I have it broken down by players. I think I do. So here's Laviska Shenault in that first half had, 2 receptions, 16 yards, and he also had 2 rushes for 5 yards. So in that first half, Laviska had 4 touches.
Wow.
4 more than he had through 3 preseason games. He had that in the first half. The second half,
he had none, because that was the final stats for it.
Laviska had 0 on the rushing side, and he had 0 on the receiving side. So, we could nitpick, and we will. That's what we do in terms of being media and talking with you guys about specific players. I feel like we got out-coached. And they were able to do some things better than us. But I'm not worried about it because here's the thing. It's a brand new coaching staff. It's a brand new quarterback. It's a brand new scheme. And yes, I want to emphasize, I want this team to win. It's so much more fun when Andre and I can come out here after a win. I'm just going to say I'm just not surprised by the outcome. Everything that happened today, I feel like it's fixable, right? Bryce is going to get in more sync with his wide receivers.
Yep.
There was many times I could tell, man, they're just doing everything. It's like they're creating a new city behind us. But in that in that second half when things started to get tight,
yep,
I felt like the Panthers started to try to go to some more things that were timing type routes, right? To get the ball down, and it was like some back shoulder things. And there was one sequence in that second half, I don't know if I can quickly find my notes, where it was an attempt to Terrace Marshall, and he was trying to do a back shoulder, and it was like somebody was off, whether Terrace took two steps too many or Bryce was too eager to get the ball out.
Right.
And no completion. Then they did almost the same thing on the right-hand side of the field, a little bit shorter, and it was still the same kind of deal where he was maybe going to think he was going to do a stop, but then he kept running, and it was just like, eh. So there's some timing thing that the wide receivers and the quarterback needs to get, as well as these coaches need to be able to, as I was saying before, there's no live fire.
Right.
I want to see these coaches actually have to coach and think of things in a live game where things are going on, but I feel like they can come back. I talked for a whole little bit there. He patiently waited. We'll continue to move on. Did you go through everything with Bryce?
Yeah, I think I covered all bases, but those were all fair points, Joe. But again, fixable.
Fixable.
The key word is fixable.
Yeah.
The timing thing's fixable. The rhythm thing's fixable. It just comes down to more reps in practice, more opportunities to be with everybody, and with time, it'll kind of just solve itself out.
Yeah. And I hope that you guys weren't calling a lot there because I forgot to look at my screen. We do have a caller that has called in.
Hey.
I appreciate it. Again, I don't know if you had to call more than once because I wasn't looking at the screen, so I appreciate you doing so. So here's how it's going to work because, again, I forgot our earpieces, so we can't have back and forth conversation. I'm going to bring you on, and once I do, please, say your name if you want, where you're calling from, but most importantly, say your question or comment, and then I'm going to hang up, and we'll continue to respond to your questions. And my guy, Andre, he's going to be my savior and make sure that he remembers all the points that you bring up. So give me just a second. And what's going on, man?
What's happening, man?
What's going on? It's Carolina boys here. I just want to make okay.
I was muted. Hold on. So, ready, set, go.
All right, it's Carolina boys 31 here. I just want to make my point about Bryce Young not being ready and Andy Dalton should come in. So basically, we brought him in to be that veteran presence, right? So after what happened and what we saw with the turnovers, I feel like Bryce Young needs to learn still. He needs to learn the offense more and get more in sync with his receivers. So I feel like Andy Dalton should come in. Most likely we're probably going to be like a 7-10 win team. So we're not going anywhere. So Bryce Young should just sit behind Andy Dalton, learn behind a veteran for 1 year, and then throw him back into the fire. I think he'll be in a much better situation, doing it that way. That's all I pretty much had to say. Most likely we're probably going to be like a 7-10 win team.
All right, I want you to stay there for 1 second because I'm going to ask you one question and then we'll kick you off. Well, not kick you off, but we'll have to go through because, again, we don't want the feedback. So tell me this. If you go ahead and you sit Bryce Young, it's a two-part question. One is, how do you think that would affect the team's mood? Because they made this guy a captain, right? So even though the performance may not have been what you wanted, think about what all it took for all these guys to make him a captain. And then if you take that guy away from them that they're seeing as their leader, what do you do? And then what about stunting his development? So I'll let you respond to that. Appreciate it.
That's a good point. Yeah, that would take his confidence away when you do something like that. But I just don't want to see Bryce Young. I just don't want to see him go out like that, man. I don't want to see him just have a bunch of games or him just getting thrown under the fire and then things aren't going well. And, I just think he'll be in a better spot if he learns behind a veteran and Andy Dalton. And then I think he'll be I think he'll be ready if he just sits behind Andy Dalton for a year and learn. That's my response.
Well, you can't say nothing yet because you're muted.
Oh. Well, I'm assuming that we can hear me now.
They can hear you now.
My thing is, though, like if you sit him, how else is he supposed to learn, though? How do you learn sitting on the bench? I think you learn and you gain the experience by being out on the field. And it's a fair argument that you have, and we can agree to disagree, right? But how does somebody learn if they're not thrown into the fire? If they're not in those situations where, hey, things are not going the way that you would like for it to be? And it sucks to see him, struggle today. But that's part of the growing process. That's part of, being a rookie quarterback, is facing some of those, hey, welcome to the NFL moments where you're just like, wow, I didn't experience this in college, and we're experiencing this now. But again, it's going to harden him, it's going to embolden him, and it's going to make him a better quarterback. By him being out there on the field, what he just experienced today is ultimately going to push him forward to greater and bigger things down the road.
Yeah, and I want to encourage you guys to continue to leave your comments. And that link is still pinned in the comments for you all to come on the show. I don't think I said this, but I think it was Carolina Boy was his name.
Yeah.
But to call it, hey, really appreciate you coming in and on the show. We hope that more people will come on the show. That link's going to be up there until we finish. So if anybody else has some venting that they want to get off their chest, has a question for Andre and I, please continue to use that link to talk with us. So we'll continue to move along here. I think right now we're at the point of going over stats.
Yes.
Right? So we're going to go over some stats, unless somebody's brave enough, which I hope they are, to call in, because we go live for that reason. It's a lot of fun to have people come on the show and interact with us. So please don't be afraid to come on the show, because there's a lot of comments that I haven't been able to get to. But a way to make sure I get to your comments is 2 ways. It's pop quiz. 2 ways.
Super chat.
All right, 3 ways. 3 ways.
That's one of them.
Well, super chat.
Call it in. I don't know what the third one is.
All right, so you gave us a bonus one because I was thinking too. Our members have a special verified logo, if you will, that shows up in the comments. Easy for us to see, and we do make a point to make sure that we answer all of our members' questions. So that link, there's no link in the description, but to join the show, support us, which we need, independent media. Just scroll up a little bit beneath the video. You'll see a button that says join. It'll walk you right through it, and you can go ahead and sign up to support this channel. Be a part of something great, right?
Yes.
A lot of you have seen us grow from
something great, and then a growing operation too.
Yeah. So let's go over those stats. Let me know when you pulled them up. And as we go through these stats, we're going to begin to paint another picture from this game today. So which one do you want to go to first, sir?
You want to start with Bryce Young and his performance
Some
today?
passing?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So Bryce Young today was 20 of 38, 146 yards, had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, both by the same guy on Atlanta. And then he was sacked twice, but that number is a little deceiving because he faced a good deal of pressure today, especially in the second half.
Did they play with the lights or did the sun go down? Nevertheless, so good point you brought up about the pressure, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to, you going to guess what I'm going to say? I've been saying it like my summary of the game.
What are you going to say?
A tale of 2 halves.
Tale of 2 halves, yeah.
Bryce Young was virtually untouched that first half. Bryce Young was only hit 1 time in that first half. I forget the final stats on the number of hits. We'll probably get to it. The second half, he was sacked twice and hit numerous other times. Right?
At least half a dozen times.
Numerous other times.
At least.
And it was for various reasons. But also within that, what this stat shows is you had a lot of what you called a mixture of vets and rookies starting on this team. You had Hakeem Ekwonu in his second year, didn't have the best preseason. You had Chandler Zavala playing his very first NFL game. And guess what? How many times did you hear Chandler Zavala? Well, we weren't watching the broadcast,
right,
so we don't really know. But I feel like, how many times would you say, well, I know you're deep into Twitter, but I'll take it. I know one time that I heard Chandler Zavala, and that was because after Bryce Young threw one of those interceptions, this rookie ran over and made the tackle after the interception. That's a guy that you want. He didn't have any false starts. He didn't have any holdings. So there's a question about, hey, do you guys think that Chandler Zavala can do it? And I've been saying, once we get some games under our belt, I can start to have an idea. Otherwise, it's a lot of speculation. So far, it's still not enough.
Right.
But it's so far with that first game, Chandler Zavala played a very promising game. I zoomed in on him a few times with the binoculars to watch him. He did good. I mean, they weren't like giving him help all day long to stop the rush. And I saw a few times he pancaked the guy.
Right.
And also he did well just blocking. So shouts out to Chandler Zavala. I might put on my jacket since that sun has gone back down. But I think that's all that I want to point out. Actually, that 3.8 yard average
Oh, wow, that's brutal.
on passing was
That is brutal right there.
That's
Let's
good.
just be frank about it. That's some Teddy Bridgewater-like passing averages right there per pass. But
You can't keep saying Frank, because that's our head coach. Frank's gone by now. You're still just talking about it. No, I'm just joking.
But nevertheless, well, and let me just say this too, 38 times passing. That was brought up in the press conference with Frank Reich.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That number, we cannot have that high. That needs to be in like the mid to upper 20s at the highest. That just shows you, again, the lack of balance that they had, especially in the second half, because they were put in a lot of situations where they had to pass the ball. And so they were very ineffective because the defense knew that they had no other choice but to pass the ball. And so, again, that number needs to be in the mid-20s, and I gave Bryce Young more opportunities to potentially make more mistakes. There were at least a couple other times as well, rather than the 2 interceptions that he threw today, where you're like, man, he almost got picked off there. There was one throw that I can remember where he was thrown to the outside, ball was behind the receiver, and it nearly got picked off by A.J. Terrell. So, again, that number is way too high.
Yeah. So we're going to continue to rock through this show. See some comments coming. Someone says, I'll read this, but for the most part, we're trying to get through some more of these stats, and then we're going to go through a lot of the comments. Also, we're still inviting you to do what? Hit the link, come on the show, comments, questions. We want to hear from you. That's why we go live. Haven't verified this, but I'm sure it could be some truth to it.
Okay.
Leonard Kowalski says, Hayden Hurst just tweeted, yes, I blacked out and threw Bryce's first touchdown in the seats, but they threw it back and the ball is safe hands. Everyone can relax and dial it back about 30%, okay?
People were freaking out, man. Not only were they happy for Bryce, they were PO'd at Hayden. Bro, why'd you throw the ball in the stands? What are you doing? What are you thinking? Hey, heat of the moment, sometimes you're in the middle of the play. You're not thinking about your next thing or what you're going to do next. It's just whatever happens, happens, right? But thankfully, they do have it secured for Bryce Young because, hey, that's a big moment for him right there.
That's a big moment. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next set of stats, which will be what?
Want to do the rushing?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the rushing.
So let's take a look here at the kinds of days that Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard, and a couple other guys had. So Miles Sanders had 18 carries for 72 yards with an average of 4 yards a carry. Chuba Hubbard had a pretty good day as well, 9 carries for 60 yards with almost a 7-yard per carry average, which is pretty good for him. Bryce Young, 3 carries for 17 yards, and Laviska Shenault having 2 carries for 5 yards. So a pretty balanced attack from that perspective. But again, you know, they were limited in what they were able to do because of situations in the game in the second half. I feel like this is like the 4th or 5th time I said it, but they had to go away from the run game because of self-inflicted wounds, and that balance that they had in the first half was thrown out of whack.
Yeah, I'm thinking here as I look over these stats, this actually is some pretty good rushing.
Yeah.
Everybody had, you know, as I was watching the game, I was feeling like Chuba Hubbard was doing pretty good.
He was running really hard out there today.
He ran pretty well. I didn't see Miles visually. To me, he didn't have that, I won't say not that good of a game, as good of a game as Chuba had is what I'm thinking. But actually, looking at these stats here, they both had pretty good, you know, 6.7 and 5.7. So I know you mentioned that they had to get away from the run game in the second half. I'm kind of thinking through that, thinking through it in the sense that we were tied through most of the game.
Yes.
And then we were just down by 1 touchdown. So I don't know if we had to go to the run game, or I don't know. I feel like I want to go back and watch it because it's like, did we have to go away from the run game? Or did we prematurely, and part of our error in coaching, say, oh, we got to start passing the ball down because we don't have enough time to go down there. So, because to me, those stats and the score of the game doesn't say that we had to throw the ball as much as we threw the ball.
Yeah.
Right? So, continue to move on. This is why we have this show. Let's go. I'll pick one random comment here that I saw come through here. I'm going to pick on Andre here with this one. Will you guys be on tomorrow night's live show?
He will be, for me, to be determined. It all kind of just depends on the timing with him. I suggested, hey, if you want to do it at 10:30, I'll be there, but he's a little apprehensive about it. But to his defense, though, are y'all going to be up at like 11 o'clock at night? Some of y'all will, some of y'all are loyal, but hey, for our casual viewers out there, I don't want to keep them up until midnight, so you may be on your own on that one there.
All right, I think it's up for the receivers. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right, let's bring up this receiving chart here.
So we have Hayden Hurst, the leading receiver for Carolina today. 5 catches for 41 yards and 7 targets. Miles Sanders with 4 catches for 26 yards. So right off the bat, a little concerned that we have a tight end and a running back as your 2 leading receivers. That's a concern right off the bat that I noticed. Terrace Marshall and Jonathan Mingo with 2 catches respectively for 23 yards and 17 yards. Laviska Shenault with 16 yards and Adam Thielen with 12 yards. So when you look at that list, you can see receivers there struggling to gain separation and create some separation. There were a lot of missed opportunities today in terms of throwing the ball deep. There had to be like 3 or 4 occasions where they tried to go deep, but either Bryce overshot him or simply put, the receiver just wasn't open.
Yeah, so with that, I'm sorry, it's this guy in front of us just kind of looked at me kind of weird, threw me off. I'm not going to look back at him, so he knows that he threw me off.
Right.
But he did. So they didn't really take any shots downfield in that first half.
Right.
Like, I think technically it would be 0. And, right, I don't remember any, but in that second half, they did start taking shots downfield.
Right.
Which again, I go back to the coaching part of, though it isn't pretty, though I would not be happy to always talk about Bryce Young, 3.8 yards, that's kind of boring. But the bottom line is you want to win. And the rushing attack was working. Why didn't we stay with what was working with the short passes and the running the ball combination? Because, why didn't we? But it was a few things about that second half that I saw, and I'm really thinking hard here.
Right.
Is that I think it was to Jonathan Mingo that he threw the ball when they were on the 1 yard line.
Yep, I remember
in that second half. And when that happened, I was like, you know what? That's some good coaching. And but also to kind of not pick on. And by the way, I haven't been looking at the screen, so if anybody's called in and I did not answer, please call back in because we want you all to be on the show. All right. We're going to leave that as an opportunity the entire time that we're live here. But I said, for the caller that called in earlier, you know how much confidence you have to allow in the first NFL career start, in the first game of the season, to be on the 1 yard line and to allow your short quarterback to drop back and have 99 yards in front of him and let him do a pass play. I actually thought that was a really good call because I don't feel like many people would have been thinking, oh, this is a rookie that they're gonna play it safe.
Right.
And I don't know if Bryce just got too excited. Couldn't see. I don't know, but it was. Because one of the things about Bryce that's talked about is how accurate he is. And man, that deep ball to Mingo would have been money. He would have took that to the house. So, just one of the observations that I have. It looked like you're holding a thought.
Yeah, and then there was no safety. It was literally one-on-one coverage, and had he caught that ball, it would have been a touchdown. But it just shows you, and then the other aspect of it too, like you were at that point in the game where it's like, all right, you know what, let's just go for it at this point. Things haven't been working. Let's try to see if we could stretch the defense and see what could come of it. And it was a good call at that point because they did not fear those Panthers receivers. They did not have that sense of, hey, I'm going to get beat by that guy. They just did not. I mean, on that one play in particular, it was press coverage. Jonathan Mingo made a nice move inside and then outside, and then boom, he was open, and then Bryce just missed him. So again, it just speaks to the issues with the receivers not getting open initially, which also contributed to Atlanta's ability to get after Bryce Young and put some heat on him. And part of it, and it's a two-way street too. Is it the offensive line not holding up long enough, or is it the receivers not getting open immediately? That's a balancing act there, but that contributed to a lot of the pressure that he was facing in the second half, was just their inability to get open.
Right.
At a moment's notice.
And I'm sorry, I was about to say something, but I'm going to put this mic down for 1 second, so you don't have to fill in too much for me, but just for a split second, and I'm gonna come back.
Right.
Actually, you know what? I'll just keep talking from over here because I still got my mic with me. I'm going to put this comment up on the screen here, and I'm going to let you guess who said this.
I got to see this.
Missed opportunities.
Oh, boy.
Dust those shirts off.
Are we going back to the Ron Rivera era right now? Oh, man.
That's funny. I won't let you get on a tangent about that. We'll continue to go through this show. Was there anything else I wanted to say? We were talking about rushing right there.
Covered the receivers.
I'm sorry, we were talking about receiving. So, yeah, one other thing I'll point out here. Terrace Marshall Jr. I definitely want to go look at the tape because this is my guy. 6 targets, only 2 catches. That is a third.
33% catch rate right there.
You want to get nerdy? 33.3 with that little tilde thing. That means
3.
Yes, that is. Why is that? All right, so we're all almost at an hour here, and I want to get to these comments. So let's go ahead and jump really quickly on this last one.
Okay.
Which is the defense, which I'll let you talk about, and we'll go back to some comments. And anybody that wants to call in, you get to skip the line privileges. But go ahead, Andre, with the defense.
Yeah, so Derek Brown and Brian Burns really had phenomenal first halves, and really in the second half they were kind of handled appropriately, for a lack of a better term. You take a look at Brian Burns, he had a phenomenal first half, and then it kind of just fizzled out. Frankie Luvu had a pretty decent game as well, 7 tackles. Jeremy Chin also with 7 tackles as well. CJ Henderson, a guy that everybody just loves to put the spotlight on for whatever reason it may be. He had 3 tackles. Deshaun Williams and Von Bell, respectively, as well. So kind of a mixed bag, right? There were some positives to take away from that unit, but you could just tell, when their backs were against a wall, they could not hold their end of the bargain. And, who's to blame for that? I mean, you could pin it on multiple people. Bryce Young took some of the responsibility for that in terms of putting the defense in a tough spot, but momentum was on Atlanta's side, right? I mean, the crowd was phenomenal today. Their rushing attack fed off of the energy in here, and it kind of made Carolina's front 7 look gashed. And so it kind of is reflected in some of the numbers that we're seeing here. But, again, building blocks, there are things to take away, but there's also things that they have to look at and say, hey, look, we have got to tighten this up. We have got to execute better. And that's what they're going to be hammering out and figuring out as we start moving throughout the week here.
Yeah, and we're going to have some fun here in these closing parts. So I'm going to go back and go through as many comments as I can. But Andre just said something. He probably doesn't even know what he said. But here's some visual. Uh-oh, did I zip it? It's boom.
Whoa.
He said the crowd was phenomenal. Here's a picture I took from the press box. The noise meter is up high. It did get loud in this stadium many times today. Even though it wasn't filled to capacity, I mean, it was 3/4 full. It was a nice amount of people.
Now, can I say this on my side of things?
Yes.
That had to be the loudest game that I was ever a part of.
Well,
I'll be real with you.
I got to add something to you, though, for some perspective.
Yeah.
From my coworker here. They had the glass open. We didn't have the glass.
That was the other part of it, too.
So, normally for everybody watching in the press box, it's kind of like sitting in your living room watching the game or any suite, but it's closed off. So the sounds and noise from the stadium is blocked out, so that we can focus on our work and talk to each other. Well, today in Atlanta, for the first time ever, I mean, at the old Georgia Dome, that's how it was all the time. There were no options. But at the new stadium, for the first time ever, they had the glass open, meaning like there was nothing protecting us from the crowd noise, and it was very, very loud for us the entire time while we were working.
I didn't even know that they could do that.
Yeah.
Where they could slide the glass across and then open it and close it. Pretty cool, but didn't really benefit us because we were trying to get some work done up there.
Yeah.
Had to like go over to Chris, hey, can you say that again?
It was
That's
tough.
a little worried I couldn't hear him, and I'm 23 years old. I'm like over here squinting and trying to figure out what the heck he was saying over there. But hey, it was part of the experience today, so I can't complain too much about that.
Yeah, and a couple of fun things that I'll share with you guys about today's game. I feel like the Falcons were like, hey, this is an opportunity to get some hype going because they got this Bryce Young and we hate those guys up 85. So for the first time in my life, I've been covering this team
Long time,
a long
right?
time.
It may not look like it.
20, I don't know, I'm tired. Probably 15 years, right? I have never seen an artist come out and perform during the game. And after Atlanta scored their first touchdown, no joke, Atlanta scored their first touchdown, they went to a break, Jeezy comes out and he does a song during the game.
Wow, I didn't even notice that.
Yes, Jeezy came out during the game after they scored and was trying to, I kind of felt kind of cool for Atlanta.
Right.
Like, man, that's cool. Have somebody come out and rap after the score and continue the hypeness. So that was pretty cool to see, just from a entertainment perspective.
Right. And that's what football is entertainment. Whenever you're actually mixing in things from the entertainment industry with sports, it's a pretty good collaboration. And I'm scared that I didn't even notice that. That's how locked in I was.
You were locked in on our social media.
I was locked in today, fellas.
If you notice some great stuff on our social media today, this guy, I gave him the challenge and I don't want to say rise up.
Let's not speak too soon.
Okay.
But we'll say initially,
he did very well.
I was locked in today.
So here's one other tidbit that you won't see from watching TV. Eddie Pinheiro last year had what kind of game in Atlanta? The worst game that you could want to have, right? With the missing kick after kick to ultimately the Carolina Panthers lost that game. You can go back and say it was DJ's fault. Just saying, he missed some kicks that were crucial, right? I've never seen them do this before in Atlanta. Before he kicked the ball, they put up on the scoreboards, and they have a heck of a nice halo scoreboard here in Atlanta. They said, all right, guys, we need everyone on their feet and cheering to whatever to help him miss this kick. And if he misses, everybody gets a free slice of pizza.
And the whole stadium. So 70,000 slices of pizza.
Right. So understandably, everybody and their mama was standing up saying, making a bunch of noise. But I give the Falcons some credit for adding a little bit of extra flavor to the entertainment, saying, hey, this guy missed before.
Right.
If we get him off his rocker today, we might put ourselves in an even better position. But Pinheiro made the kick, and there was no free pizza to be given to all the people that are here.
Do you even think they have 70,000 slices of pizza that they could hand out?
I'm pretty sure they were not counting on 70,000.
There's no way.
They were probably going to be like, oh, we ran out.
Yeah,
look at the sign. Look at the small print.
First come, first serve, right?
All right, let's go through it. We're a little bit at the time, but I'm going to say we'll give you guys, we'll go up to 15 minutes.
Let's do it.
To go through these
I'm
comments
cool with
because
that.
you stayed here to talk with us, and we want to go through it. So we got Candyman says, what's up, guys, from California.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Cross-country affair.
Yeah, let's see if I can
make it a little bigger.
Actually, I'm just going to start from the top. So I'm not going to comment on that comment. I know that kind of sounds redundant. But I'm going to start up from the top. We look the same as we did last year. Where does Burns go in the second half?
It's a fair question. It speaks for itself.
He went to the locker room. He came out. But I just think that they made some adjustments that we weren't able to accommodate for.
Right.
More concerned about our wide receiver play and J.C. Horn than anything after today. So we talked about the wide receiver play. I'm going to give my 2 cents on J.C. Horn. I'm hoping that he doesn't play next week. Not for we're going to win or lose kind of thing. But I'm sure J.C. Horn himself is not down and out in terms of thinking, oh, man, I'm injury prone. I'm sure he's frustrated as heck that he didn't get to play.
Right.
But I don't think he's thinking about the injury prone thing. But I will say this, I think the guys upstairs should be thinking about it.
Oh, yeah.
The coaching staff should be thinking about it and trying to put something in place because, yeah, it's a different type of injury. But it's like he only played half the game. It was a non-contact injury, and he missed the whole second half. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, because he came out about midway through. So it's a concern. But I'm like, sit him out because hamstrings can linger, number one. What if he comes back out there and he re-injures it again, and now he's out, like Damiere Byrd, who got put out. He's out for what, 4 to 6 weeks? Damiere Byrd had a hamstring.
Yeah. Yep.
So you don't want that to happen with this guy. You don't know what's going to happen with him. So appreciate that comment there. We'll continue to roll through these because I want to get through as many as I can. Tyrone Green said, "We look bad."
Okay.
Spartan said, "We look like dog water."
That's one way to put it.
I'm going to get a read one of Leonard's. Actually, I think I already read one, but I wouldn't say we look the same by any means because we were bad last year.
Okay.
I think we were too conservative with Bryce, and he got in and out of rhythm because of that. You want to comment on that?
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of plays in the first half where the calls were just screen passes or plays over to Laviska Shenault, and it didn't feel as expansive. So definitely something that we noticed as well.
All right, Jimmy says Bryce seems to have trouble throwing anything longer than 15 yards. So I'm going to digest that a little bit and say maybe it's just in a game situation, all this newness, because I feel like that honestly could be a fair statement from today's game that I didn't think about, that he has trouble because they did not connect on anything deep, and there were some openings. Even the one where he threw the Terrace on the right side that was incomplete wasn't one that Terrace really had a chance to get his hands on.
Yeah.
So that, man, Jimmy, I just got to give you props on that comment there, and we'll continue to look at that. Marcus says we need a receiver that can get free. If teams don't respect our passing game, they'll load up the box. Yeah? You got anything you want to put on that? If not, we'll continue to move through these.
Basically what he said. I mean, they loaded up the box today, and look what happened. A lot of pressure in his face today in the second half.
Just running through these comments, trying to see what I can get through before we get off of here.
Let's see if we got a good question on it.
Marcus says, I agree with the play call and left a lot to be desired, but I do believe Bryce played fairly well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I made the comment on the play calling because the passing was working with the running combination in terms of the short stuff.
Yeah.
And a combination of Chuba and Miles. And then we started trying to do different routes that we weren't doing in the first half. We started trying to go deep, and we threw the ball 30-something times.
Yeah.
So it's a little weird for me. Just again going through some of these comments here. Tepper has tried to make us the Steelers. Spartans Creed. I don't kind of get that comment. I don't know if you do, Andre, but I always appreciate all the comments that come through.
We're definitely not experiencing the success that the Steelers have had in years past. So, tough to really see that one there.
We hardly have any draft picks. How are we going to fix this wide receiver group?
We don't have a first-round pick next year. So, it'll be interesting to see. They'll probably go through free agency, if anything, because that will be a big class coming up next year. But, yeah, it's a problem. It's definitely a problem that they have to get addressed here.
That comment that I showed you that I will not put on the screen, just went through that one again. And if anybody calls in before I finish going through these, I'll let you guys on here. Not a problem at all.
Can we get one more person? One more person to pop on in here before we hop off the air.
All right, I'm going to take this from Leonard. The O-line played surprisingly well today, the majority of the game. Yes! Give Campen his props. Give Coming to Jesus meeting their props. I don't know how many of those they may have had. But this offensive line was nothing like what it was in the preseason.
Yes.
Because, yes, it was a tale of two halves. But in that second half, when they just started throwing the ball all the time, giving the defense a chance to pin their ears back, and your wide receivers maybe not getting open.
Right.
It played a part in him getting some sacks, but he did not get, as far as my memory serves me, in the preseason, there was some times where he just got like walloped.
Right.
Some guy just came off the edge or came straight and just walloped Bryce. It was like pretty quick. It was like bam, bam.
Mm-hmm.
Today, even though he started getting sacked and a lot of pressure, it wasn't right away.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you know, I'm sure you get a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. It was around 3 to 4 seconds that it started to happen where Bryce was kind of moving here and going here, and he didn't find anywhere to throw the ball, that he started getting wrapped up and getting hit. So I still feel like that's not an offensive line fault.
Yeah,
when
and
you
they didn't
have
give
that.
up a sack until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So that's pretty significant on that side of things as well.
Uh-oh, Jackie Robinson says, I give you a hard time.
See, now you all know my struggle. I gotta deal with this doofus every time we go. I'm just playing. Hey, seriously though, this dude is one of the chillest dudes out there. One of the most approachable guys there is. Yeah, he gives me a hard time, but that's
I don't
part of
give
it.
you a hard time, do I? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's all in
You guys
the
pay
effort.
good money for this.
Hey, it's all in the effort though of a better production. If that's the case, hey, I don't care how hard this guy gives me a hard time for it.
I think I only gave him one hard time today, and that's because I'm getting old. And when he interrupts me, I can't remember what I'm saying, but we're getting a lot better at this talking dynamic in our second year together, and I appreciate him coming back. He's
Absolutely.
the first person to return in our history. We started in 2006, so that says something for him that he's back.
Right.
And Jackie, I appreciate your comment, though, giving us something to talk about here. Lots of fun.
Giving us a good laugh, right?
Ted getting out of retirement to assist with this wide receiver core.
Oh, no.
Testaverde
How
style.
desperate are we becoming, fellas? Come on now.
Tyrone Green says, what's up, Andre?
What's going on, Tyrone? Thanks for tuning in, man. Glad to have you on here.
Lots more people saying we need wide receivers, vanilla offense. Time to move on from JC. We got a few more minutes. I'm getting tired, but I'm going to give you guys 4 more minutes to stick with the original time I said.
Bryce got to be smarter than that. That second pick was so amateur. This is the NFL. No one's falling for that. Again, rookie mistake. Obviously, you're going to have moments where you're like, hey, don't throw that ball. And he probably would be the first to tell you, I didn't want to throw that ball. He's going to learn. Give it time. He's going to learn.
Yeah, and one thing is Andre's head was down a lot of the game, so he's going to have to review some tape. He was handling the social media. But I will say this about Bryce's interceptions. They were pretty much the same thing. Just not seeing a guy for whatever reason. And I feel like that for him, for all the accolades that I've heard, his intelligence, his pursuit of perfection, that he'll get that fixed. It was his first game ever in the NFL, so I'm sure we won't remember this first game if he continues on the trajectory that everybody feels that he should be on. But he does have to be smarter than that.
Absolutely.
David Chisholm says, Chris, I saw you guys on the field at the game. That offense is definitely vanilla still, along with the – it wasn't vanilla. No, they especially – I mean, LaVisca had 4 touches.
Yeah.
He had 2 runs and two receptions.
Two receptions.
They mixed it up quite a bit with Chuba and Miles Sanders, so I don't feel like it was vanilla.
Yeah, they were definitely moving the ball. They just didn't get the opportunities to score touchdowns like they would have liked. Or they didn't take advantage of those opportunities, especially on that first 4th down call that they had. But they were moving the ball. In the second half, they were just at a disadvantage because of self-inflicted wounds that they had. So definitely some more variety in their play calls. I mean, there was one play where they did like a play action, and then they had Miles Sanders kind of do like a curl up the left side of the field, and then in the middle of the field was wide open for Hayden Hurst, who kind of creaked his way out of the backfield for a completion. That was something that we didn't see in the preseason, so they definitely opened up the playbook. But again, you do want to see more creativity. That's part of the reason why Frank Reich's here. He knows how to get people the ball. We need to see more of it.
Yeah, and I got a little snippet here. So tomorrow's show is also a chance for us to get some more content that we weren't able to grab today. We never go in the locker room right after the game. We used to, but it's important for us to come on and talk to you guys right away. But it looks like Brian Burns finally did speak with the media today in the locker room. And I don't know, this is a little bit of take it with how you wish. But
Take it with a grain of salt.
I wasn't playing with a chip on my shoulder Sunday. I was just taking the next step in my game. I want to dominate.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure? Just initially.
I'm not mad about anything. There's nothing. I'm clear conscious.
What else would motivate you to play like that, though? Like when you play out of your mind like that, when you know you're about to secure a lump sum of cash, you're going to be playing bananas out there, which he did today. But of course, he's going to try and downplay it to the media. But you could just tell, stop with the red cap.
Capital
C-A-P.
All right. Guys, I think we're about 2 minutes short of what I said. I can't do it anymore. I'm tired. We got to drive back to Charlotte. We've been up since, no, we're not too bad. It was since 7.
We're about the 12-hour mark.
Yeah.
In our journey here today.
Yeah. And we got a nice drive back to Charlotte, North Carolina tonight. So do me a favor. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button. Helps other Carolina Panther fans find out about the channel. Subscribe. Help us get to 10,000 subscribers. It really does help us do more in terms of getting players and coaches on the show. Also, please consider joining. We need your support. We're independent media, supported 100% by you guys. Spoke during the preseason show, pre-game show, that we have travels secured through the Detroit game, but we want to continue to go to more so we can bring you firsthand observations and information. So any donations that are able to do that would be great and appreciated. I had a lot of fun. Want to get you all's feedback from the show that we did today, both pregame and postgame. And you know what? Somebody said that I was giving Andre Casseday a tough time.
Oh, boy.
I don't know why they said that. So you know what I'm going to do? Andre, step over to the center a little bit there.
All right, let's do it.
We're going to give you your zoom in solo shot to say whatever closing comments that you want, as well as wrap us on up. Take as much time as you want. The full thing.
I appreciate you doing that, Chris. But let me just say this for everybody out there right off the bat. Thank you again for all of your support today. It really does mean a lot to the both of us. Getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning, traveling and doing all these things for you, it makes it worthwhile when all of you are out there being active and participating on social media and over here on our live streams. Whenever we get to see you live and talk about how you feel, it makes that ever so more worthwhile. I just want to say this, and then we'll hop on the air, or hop off of the air here. Hey, it's week 1. I get the overreactions, I get the frustrations and the disappointment, but guys, come on. This is a process, this is a journey, this is a marathon. It's gonna be okay. I'm a little surprised that I'm not as irritated as I thought I was gonna be after what took place today, because I guess when you get older and you get a little bit wiser, you start to realize, hey, not everything is instant. So my message to all of you out there is please give this team the time that they need to go out and develop and do what they need to do. And that's pretty much it. So for us here, for the Charlotte Vibe, for Chris Jenkins, I'm Andre Casseday, for the Charlotte Vibe, thank you all so much for tuning in here tonight.
Cut off button, so I'll come and hit it for you.